Hey, what's going on, guys? So today we're talking about a Schrade knife. So this is a, well, I don't want to say new, it's I guess somewhat new. This was available maybe a year ago, maybe a little bit more. I remember when it first came out, I got one, as well as 2 or 3 of their American knives, which I am still testing and I will do videos on. But this one is the Ultimatum, which sounds aggressive. It does, the Ultimatum. What does that mean? Anyway, I mean, I know what it means. I just don't know why the knife's called that. So it did come with a little pouch, in case you're interested in stuff like that. And that's what it came with. In fact, the American ones came with that as well. This one is in AUS 8. This is also made in China, unlike their US series of newer knives, knife models. So some quick specs here. 3.5 inches. Again, this is a hollow ground Warncliffe blade, AUS 8. Close, this is 4.5 inches. We have G10 over stainless liners. Overall, it's 8 inches, and the weight is 6.4 ounces. It is chunky at 6.5 ounces almost. You feel that. I have some weird mixed feelings about this. The price on these, by the way, is $23.95, so it's definitely like a budget knife, right? So it's something to think about. Obviously I'm going to critique this. There's one thing I absolutely hate about this knife. However, overall, it's okay. It's really not bad. Again, for the $24 price tag, I think full retail is $29.99. So it is very affordable. I don't have a problem with the AUS 8. AUS 8 obviously is a cheaper, softer steel. It doesn't hold an edge as well, obviously, as a lot of stuff we're used to these days. And you can get, kind of a premium steel in a knife for not as much as it used to be. It's more common to see, high-end steels for 50 bucks or 75 bucks, things like that. Whereas maybe 10 or 15 years ago, you'd pay at least 100 or more to get like a really good quality steel. So there's plenty of competition out there. In using this knife, the first thing I noticed, I mean, literally out of the box, which was a huge disappointment, and this is what I hate most about this knife, is the jimping. The jimping on the back here of the blade is so aggressive, it literally feels like a saw back on a fixed blade. In fact, if I had a twig here, I could probably, or a thicker stick, I could probably make like a, a notch in it for like a tent stake or something like that. So maybe that might be a good thing for the bushcraft people out there. But yeah, it is just, I don't know what it is. It's the most aggressive, most uncomfortable jimping I've ever experienced on a knife ever. All right, so let's take a closer look at these. It doesn't look menacing. It doesn't look like it would be absolutely horrendous, but it is. There are deeper cuts in here, and you think like, okay, well, it's just more aggressive. But I think what it is the shoulders on these flat ends here are just really sharp. It's actually sharp. Like it's uncomfortable to put my thumb on here, especially if I'm putting any kind of pressure forward or backward or even side to side. So if you're using your knife and you're cutting hard, I would highly recommend just choking down a little so your thumb rests on the frame, which is totally fine. This is nice and smooth here. Or if you're choking up on the knife, just wrap your hand around it. Don't use the actual jimping. Don't put your thumb on the spine on this one. You will be terribly disappointed by that. So that is my biggest complaint. Obviously, it's a little chunky. My second complaint, which you probably already noticed, most of you, is that it is only a tip down right side carry. Now, clearly, most of the knife community has spoken, and we all like tip up. Years and years ago, I really didn't care that much. In fact, I have a video from who knows when, maybe 2012, 2013, something like that, who knows. But at that point, I was talking about it doesn't really matter to me if I have tip up or tip down. Most knives are tip up these days, so what you do is you have an overhand grip when pulling it out, so you're orientated properly to open that knife, right? If you have a tip down like this, you simply, instead of doing an overhand grip, you just come down with the pointer finger and thumb and pull straight up. You have literally the exact same grip, all right? But it takes a little bit of training. In fact, I've used so many knives that are tip up at this point in my life that every time I went to go put this in my pocket, I tried to clip it in backwards and it just went in my pocket. It just fell in my pocket because I wasn't thinking that it's a tip down, because who does tip down anymore, right? So it's not the end of the world. The pocket clip itself is actually pretty stiff. and there's texturing on here, if you could see. Let me show you this side. All right, so when I actually did it, realized that I was putting it the wrong way and I flipped it around. I had to do one of these where you put your fingernail in there. So when you go to push it in, you lift up just a little to give it just a little bit of a head start, because the material was actually dragging and it created a lot of friction in this texturing here on the G10. So we have a slightly tighter clip, which is not a big deal if it lands on a smooth surface, but this is not. This is a textured surface. So it was a little bit harder to get in and out of the pocket. All right, so number one, we have horrible, horrible jimping. Number two, it was harder to get in and out of the pocket. Number three, we have the tip down only, right side tip down only. Now, all that aside, which is obviously big deals for a lot of people, I actually did enjoy this knife. It is a lockback design. There is a touch of up and down play, all right? It's barely there, but if I really crank on this thing, I could feel it. All right, you're not gonna be able to hear it or anything, but I could feel it there a little bit. When I'm cutting stuff, I absolutely don't feel it. It is the least amount of blade play possible and still actually has play, but it's definitely worth mentioning because it was out of the box like that. It's not from usage. I really do like the blade profile. I don't know why I said profile like that, but I did. Can't take it back. I suppose I can edit it out, but I'm not going to. Yeah, the blade profile is fine. You know, more times than not, I like a clip point or drop point over something like a Warncliffe, but every now and again, I can get down. And it actually has a very nice tip on this. All right, so in slicing boxes, piercing, it's actually a pretty acute tip. So it was very easy to pierce into things with this. And like I said, the AUS 8, nothing to write home about, but I mean, out of the box, it was razor sharp. It was actually really well done. I've managed to maintain most of that just by stropping instead of actually sharpening. Ambidextrous thumb studs, which you expect, but here's a kind of a surprise, especially for the price tag. There's actually a bearing system here. Schrade calls it the Ultra Glide bearing system. And you feel that, you notice that. It's actually really smooth to open. So we have a fair amount of back spring holding that blade in, so it's definitely not going to shake out. You have no worry at all. However, I can very easily flick this thing out. All right, it really does not take much pressure at all because of the bearing. It's actually super, super smooth, which is almost a shame that there's such nice action on a knife that has so many other issues. I wish I had this action on a lot of like $50 knives, $80 knives, $120 knives, so on. It's super, super, it's like crazy nice and smooth. So I don't have a whole bunch of lockbacks here where I could just very easily just flick it out with the thumb. So that's actually nice. That's almost like a saving grace for this one. So if you happen to, you know, be into Schrade and you're looking for something new, I guess you don't have a choice. I mean, they're giving you the ultimatum here, right? So for the price tag, I guess you have to get it. There's enough handle here where even if you have bigger hands, you can really bear down on there. So again, the pros, the takeaway here, I like the blade profile on this one. I love the super smooth action. You know, there's a lot of negatives though. That tip down only, the you know, pocket clip, the tighter pocket clip on the texturing. The jimping obviously is the biggest one that stands out. So I mean, it's kind of, it's hard because it's right in the middle of the road there. You know, it's a chunky, bigger knife. I definitely feel like this can take some abuse, being that there's already a little bit of that blade play. And that's just the lineup from the back spring and the bottom of the blade there. So that's a factory QC issue. Like I said, it is barely there. In fact, if you happen to have a Schrade Ultimatum, I would really appreciate it if you could check to see if you have blade play, especially if it's, you know, newer or unused, so I know if that's a consistent thing. So yeah, if you happen to have one, let me know in the comment section, you know, if there's any blade play or not. But you know what? It's one of those things. It's 24 bucks. You know, considering what the market is today, there's a ton of knives that are 24 bucks that are actually really good. But I wouldn't automatically just say this is junk. There's a lot not going for it. There's a lot against it. But like I said, that's smooth action, the larger size, the blade profile, but the price tag. That price tag, you know, kind of saves it. The action and the price, I should say, together. So I feel like there's a lot of guys out there that would get this and they'd overlook the, like, hey, you know, I don't even use that grip anyway. I, you know, use a full, you know, natural relaxed grip like this, or I'll just choke up, or, you know, whatever you're doing. If you can get past the jimping here, you can get past the extra chunk in the weight. And I think for a lot of you guys, the hardest thing would be getting past the, you know, tip down only. But hey, if it's not a big deal to you, I could totally see a lot of like construction guys like dudes that are in trades, you know, electricians and plumbers, construction, HVAC, things like that, who use a knife, but you're not really like knife people. You're not super critical of your knife. You know, you take it out, you know, you cut something with it, you put it back. You're not thinking much about it. You're not like, oh man, this is uncomfortable or this. You know, some of us knife people, we get extra critical because most of us have had a bunch of knives, and you can really see that, hey, some are really comfortable, some aren't comfortable, some cut really well, some don't. So the more experience you have with knives, the more, you know, you tend to be critical. I think that goes with anything across the board. If you are really into cars and you're a mechanic and you've, you know, fixed and driven, you know, hundreds of different used cars, you might be more critical than just the average person who doesn't know much about cars. So for the knife people, you may or may not pass this one up because there's so many other options out there. But honestly, like for gift giving, if you know someone who could use a good knife, a good sturdy, I mean, I really feel like this could be used pretty hard without any concerns. Christmas rolls around, birthdays, you know, these different holidays and stuff, gift giving season. This might be a really good option to give to someone, you know. So that's where I think this would shine. It's not going to break the bank. You can get a couple of these, give them to all your buddies or whatever. They're not, you know, people who aren't like super knife people, but they can definitely, you know, appreciate that. I know so many people in my life that just aren't super into knives, but if I hand this to them, they go, wow, you know, that's a really nice knife, Jeff, thanks, you know. Hey, you know, if you don't know, you don't know, it's fine. It's not going to hurt anything. Anyway, that is the Schrade Ultimatum. There is a lanyard hole here I didn't mention, as well as this jimping down here. I don't have an issue at all with. As soon as I opened this in the box, I thought, wow, that's horrible, and thought that's really going to rip me up when I'm using the knife hard, but it was never an issue. Not an issue at all, because this has a nice point on it. You could use it in reverse grip. Your thumb does actually facilitate grip there. All right, help you from keeping your hand from sliding down and slicing yourself. But again, I don't know why you're stabbing things with force with your folding knife. If for some reason you do have to stab something, it's probably best to use a fixed blade. But yeah, I would say not terrible. Definitely far from my first one to choose. However, the silver lining here, in my opinion, is great for gift giving. Someone's going to get this as a gift who's not really into knives, but really has a use for knife. And they're going to go, wow, this thing is so smooth and it's so strong and it's so sharp and it's so pointy, and they're going to love it. They're going to absolutely love it. So just something to keep in mind. Anyway, that's all. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you have an awesome day, and I'll see you tomorrow with a brand new video. Take care.